Welcome to episode 23 of Central Intelligence Cinema. Thanks to a rather extraordinary happening, Jason and I have already had the chance to see No Time to Die. This was recorded the day after we got to see it and contains no spoilers to the best of our abilities, and we limited talk about characters to returning cast and characters prominently featured in the trailers. But if you want to go in ice cold, maybe go back to our Spectre review for now. And hey, it's a good way to remind you what happened, so you'll be ready when you do go see No Time to Die. But with that, let's get into it.
Beg your pardon, forgot to knock.
Welcome to the CIC, initiating security clearance.
My name is Napoleon Sullivan. Bond. James Bond. Ethan Hunt. Felix Leiter. Ilya Kuryakin.
Identity confirmed.
Now, pay attention, 007.
Welcome to Central Intelligence Cinema, a podcast dedicated to spy movies and secret agent pop culture.
Your mission, should you decide to accept it.
Remember, nothing ever goes according to plan.
Tom, what do you think you're doing?
The British Admiral, sir. You expect me to talk?
Yeah, baby!
Coming to you from an undisclosed location, which is in no way a movie theater, it's the Central Intelligence Cinema Podcast. I'm Jason Greenberg, and with me, as always, Ben Esslinger.
Thank you, Jason, and welcome back to the CIC. We've got a last-minute special intel report for you today because yours truly, both of us, went and saw... We truly got to go see No Time to Die.
What?
We did. Ahead of just about everybody else in the United States. We had the amazing opportunity. And before we even before I even hit the intel report music, I would just like to shout out to James Page of MI6 HQ, aka the James Bond and Friends podcast. Well, they're two different things, really, but it's a publication, it's a website, and it's a podcast. But anyway, James Page, thank you so very much. Without him, we would have not had the opportunity to go and see this at a press screening, which was one of 30 cities across the earth. Anyway, it was simultaneously shown at the same time that the London premiere was going on. And they happen to have one near our
undisclosed location.
Yes, exactly. Closest to our undisclosed location. And so we were able to go and see No Time to Die. And yeah, I'm very, very happy about it. I really liked it. I'm kind of over the moon that we got to see it so early.
Totally.
So early. And the fact that otherwise, because me personally, I have a 10-year anniversary vacation coming up. And had I not gotten this opportunity, I would not have seen this movie at the release time. I would have seen it late. I would have seen it after all the Americans have already seen it. And so,
which means, by the way, I would have had to wait. So, double thank you.
Exactly. So thank you so much, James Page. Yes. But yeah, we're here to talk about, in a spoiler-free kind of way, broad strokes, our first impressions of No Time to Die. So should I hit our little theme tune?
Let's do it.
Looking for a news story?
Impress me.
Transmitting CIC Intel dossier.
They'll print anything these days.
Okay, so yeah. We saw No Time to Die. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Yes, finally, we have seen this damn thing. Oh, so happy about it. So happy. Man, I'm going to disclose something to our tens of listeners, which is that I have a lot of sleeping issues that I'm actually seeing a doctor about. I went into this movie with 2 hours of sleep. And when I only get 2 hours of sleep, I'm a very emotional person. And this was a movie that was tough to see with a lot of emotions running through me, because it's kind of an emotional movie. And I will just say that the movie shook me just a little bit. And yeah, it took me a little time to recover. I'm glad I slept last night because now I feel much better and I'm a little more level-headed about my take on the movie and all that sort of thing. I think yesterday, if I tried to record yesterday, I would have been like, it was the greatest movie I've ever seen. Oh my God. That sort of thing.
Fortunately, Ben had me around as his logical semi-Vulcan counterpart to keep the emotions in check.
Yes, exactly. I was like, oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. It was a good movie. I'm fine. So first impressions, I'm just going to say this final outing for Daniel Craig. It's the final outing for Daniel Craig that I didn't know I wanted. That's what I will say. I didn't expect it to be what it was, but I'm happy that it was what it was. I like the way they did this, even though technically, if you think about where Spectre ends, it's like we've now had the Lord of Rings 2 endings situation for Daniel Craig's legacy. But I kind of like the second ending a lot better. That's just me.
That's fair.
I like that it wrapped everything up, but miraculously, at least for me, I didn't get the feeling like it retconned anything. If anything, it just sort of embellished on things that existed in a way that didn't feel forced. If anything, they just sort of elaborated on things that had been established. They didn't try and rewrite history. They merely embellished on the history that was there in Spectre. And so I'm very, very happy with the movie. But I know that Jason will have something to say.
Well, I will tell you, you said it was the one you didn't know that you wanted. Mm-hmm. I think it was the exact movie I expected it to be for reasons. But that doesn't take anything away from the fact that I really enjoyed seeing it. I mean, it had everything that you want to have in a James Bond movie.
Yes.
And I think maybe for the first time since Daniel Craig took over, successfully integrated all of those things into a James Bond movie.
Absolutely.
And so I came out feeling like I'd seen something that kind of sparked my childhood version of James Bond, my early adulthood version of James Bond, and still integrated this new adulty version with Daniel Craig that I am the largest fan of. And yes. I didn't feel like I had anything that was left wanting from that.
Yeah.
All of the old tropes that you don't hate are in it. I don't think there were any of the other ones that you do hate that are in it. Right.
I don't think so. I mean, there might have been one thing that I might have had a quarter eye roll on, just a quarter eye roll. But
I don't think you could get out of a James Bond movie without rolling your eyes at least twice, but no matter how diehard a fan you are.
I get the feeling when I see that moment again, I'll actually probably chuckle about it.
That's fair. So, I mean, like you said, it was the perfect movie for Daniel Craig to go out on.
Yeah.
And I mean, I said this when we did the Spectre review. I felt like Spectre was the right movie for him to go out on. Riding off into the not sunset because it was pitch black, but I got the girl, I did the job, I'm moving on. And I'm like, where do you go from there? And why do you go from there?
Right.
But they really, Daniel Craig, Fukunaga, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, everybody involved really just set up an excellent ending to an era of James Bond.
Yeah.
And, I think it's fantastic after the 10th viewing? Maybe not. I think I'll still think it's pretty fantastic after 2 or 3.
Right.
But yeah, it was a great way to end the story. It was a very enjoyable way to do it. The time flew by.
Yes. And that was one of the things I was going to bring up, is that I also felt kind of like this movie was almost, and granted, this is towards people like myself who were not entirely happy with Spectre. I kind of felt like this was an apology letter to people who didn't care for Spectre, in the sense that the pacing in this movie is fantastic. For being such a long movie, it didn't feel that way. In fact, in some cases, I would almost say it was moving things along was almost hyper accelerated. There's, I think of moments where, how do I say this? Let's just say that Bond changes form of transportation at some point in this movie. And when he goes from one bit of transportation to the next, it takes very little time, and they do it in such a way that's really efficient. It's sort of the same thing too. They will talk about somewhere where they're going to go, and the next minute they're there already. You don't see them leaving to go there. You don't see, it's just
there's not even a plane with a little red line that's following them as they go.
Exactly. So the editing is extremely efficient in the way that they snap from one beat to the next.
Right. Well, and that's the directors, man.
Yeah. I felt that Fukunaga just knocked it out of the park in that respect. And you had mentioned Phoebe Waller-Bridge. So much of the dialogue is just so sharp in this one.
Yeah.
I really, really appreciated that. I'm very, very happy with the movie. And I think for me, I have a feeling I'm going to go back and watch this and I'm going to like it even more. And then I'm going to like it even more. Now I could be wrong. I mean, I was wrong about Spectre. When I first saw Spectre, I thought it was great. And then 10 viewings later, I was like, this movie frustrates the living hell out of me. So, so who knows? But right now I'm loving it. I really enjoyed it. So I did want to talk just briefly about the score and the music. I will say I wasn't blown away by the score, but I felt like the score did its job.
Yeah, and there was a lot more of it.
There was a lot more of it. It was effective. Now, I will say too, there are echoes of previous Bonds in the score, and I'm sure people have heard some of that already, but which work really, really well, especially towards the end of this movie. I feel like it works really well now. And also very satisfying to me was the fact that they did work in the actual No Time to Die theme song into the score, although it's kind of funny that it is put into the score less than the other aforementioned older Bond song. There's more of the older Bond song in the score than there is of the new Bond theme, but I'll take it regardless because it's effective. It's not one of these blow you away scores. I don't think. I think about
it is 100% perfectly adequate for what it needed to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I was definitely more satisfied with this than I was, again, with Spectre. Spectre, I was just so irritated that there were full lifts of music in Skyfall that got dropped right into Spectre that I was just like, come on. But anyway. The other reason why I feel like this is sort of an apology to people who didn't like Spectre was that I felt like finally, and this is actually just a chronic issue with Bond films, is a lot of times the third act is usually a lot of problems in the third act. That's where things tend to fall apart in Bond movies, is in the third act. And Spectre was certainly guilty of that. Whereas I feel like the third act of No Time to Die is quite good.
Oh yeah, neat and tidy and everything you want. Again, everything that you want in a Bond movie, but nothing that you don't.
Exactly. It was amazingly shot. I can't get over the photography in this thing. I almost feel like at times I wish it was almost a little less picturesque every once in a while, because every shot is just manicured. Like literally every shot is so perfect. I almost want a little bit more ruggedness to some degree when but I mean, it's awesome. So now I will say too, I'm not trying to give anything away. But I will say that I felt like this is a new take on Bond that I haven't seen in any other Bond actor's tenure. The phase in which Bond is in this movie is different than anything I've ever seen before. And that's about all I can say about it. It's just the way that Bond is portrayed in this film. I have never seen it done by a different Bond actor. I don't think Roger had it. I don't think Sean certainly didn't have it because he bowed out too early. And we certainly didn't see this. I mean, let's be real here. Pierce didn't really. Pierce was like one note in that respect. He had one Bond that he was. I think maybe that's something.
He was Remington Steele is James Bond.
Right. Exactly.
That was his note.
Yeah. And perhaps maybe that's the quintessential thing about Daniel as Bond, is that in every movie, he's kind of portrayed Bond in a different phase of Bond's life, really.
Yeah.
And so this was no different than that. He lived up to his previous history of how he has portrayed Bond. So yeah. That's about all I can say about that.
I have so much I want to say, but I can't.
Yes.
I will have to save that for the inevitable.
Yes.
No Time to Die review.
That's right. That's right. I will say too that, and this is all I will say, I was happy that, again, this is another thing that I didn't like in Spectre, but in this movie I did. I felt like Blofeld in this movie was portrayed far more capable than he was in Spectre. Now, granted, in Spectre, he didn't come off as being incapable until the final third, when everything sort of falls apart in that movie. But I just felt like Blofeld was actually a little bit more scary and a little bit more like the villain that he's supposed to be. So I was pleasantly surprised with that. He showed up a little bit more. I felt Christoph Waltz still sort of gave the same sort of Blofeld, but it felt a little different. And maybe that was the direction. Maybe that was, who knows what it was. Maybe, I know that, he probably read some of the reviews, and I think there was like an interview with him after Spectre came out where he wasn't real happy with his own performance in it. So who knows? Maybe he self-corrected some of his mannerisms or how he delivered lines or whatnot, because he didn't go the full, what's that character that you're always talking about that he plays in all those movies?
Hans Landa.
I didn't think he went full Hans Landa in in this one. Honestly, it felt more Hannibal Lecter than Hans Landa in this one. So it certainly, yes, indeed. And I think, at least for me, it was for the better.
Yeah. Also, he did not say it's a bingo.
He did not say it's a bingo.
We were really hoping for that. We did not get that.
We did not.
And when we made that comment when we left the theater to the people that are there, that there were no bingos, and we were very disappointed.
They just sort of looked at us with a glazed over look. They didn't know where we were.
They just looked at us like everybody looks at us.
Like
don't
we're crazy?
try and exactly. Don't try and give them any more credit. They were just like, who are these people? How did they get in here?
The Dante and Randall of spy podcasting.
Yeah, exactly. We should have gone in hockey jerseys and at least let them know what they were getting into.
Now, I will say, I've seen some early criticism of Rami Malek's character, just broad strokes about what they thought of his performance. I actually really liked him. I felt like Rami Malek did come off as disturbing, but at the same time, there were some things that were a little tough about his villain. The first of which, actually, there's a couple of moments where I have a really hard time understanding what he's saying. And I had to sort of pick up what he was saying based on context. I had to sort of infer what he was.
Yeah, I would blame that more on sound editing.
Yeah, especially towards the very end.
Yeah, and also the theater we were in was one of those super duper high end, Dolby.
Yes. Well, what was funny about that, it was kind of low though. I felt like the volume was a little low in there.
Yeah, but there were some scenes where the music was competing with the dialogue.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to give a subtle performance,
mm-hmm.
and you don't have the music mix right on it,
right,
it not only takes that away from it, but so I don't blame the movie. I don't blame Rami Malek. I really blame the theater we were in for causing a lot of that issue. Mm-hmm. And so I think on a perhaps a more regular screen or on a home setup, I think the performance will come out a lot more than what we got from what we watched, which is kind of disappointing considering what it was being presented as.
Right.
But nobody can do anything about what the theater is set up to do, unfortunately.
Right. Exactly. You get what you get lot of, in that respect. I did feel like, I don't even know if I should get into this, but I kind of feel like Safin's motivations were a little confusing as a villain. Also, I thought, Ana de Armas was delightful in the movie, and she's just drop dead gorgeous. But I kind of felt like her purpose for being there was a little confusing. Like, I know why kind of she was there, but I also kind of don't know why. Like, it was very one note. I felt like they could have done more with her. There's parts of her character that I really liked. Like, she was super kick-ass, and she did have a fun chemistry with Daniel Craig. Like, that was the one thing, that was the high note for me, was that those scenes, where it's just him and her. I really enjoyed those moments. They were cute, and she did, about as much as she could with what she was given. I just wish they would have given her a little bit more to do.
I can't refute anything you just said without spoiling the movie, so I'm just going to nod my head.
All right. Nomi. She was kick-ass, and I did like her. But again, I feel like they should have committed more. They should have committed more to making her more kick-ass and more. She was credible, but I felt like they could have pushed that even further. They could have given her a little bit more oomph. I don't know how else to say it without like spoiling anything.
Well, I'm sure the Fukunaga cut will take care of all of that for everybody.
Fukunaga cut? Are we gonna see
the 3.5 hour? Yeah, it'll be a 4.5 hour thing that you're gonna see on Amazon, like they did with Justice League.
Right. So we're gonna see people on Twitter with hashtag release the Fukunaga cut.
I hope we start that right now. The new movie hasn't even come out, and I want people hashtag Fukunaga cut just so he goes back and says, that is my cut. That I had final cut on this. That's mine. We want more.
I also, if I'm being picky, but granted, this is sort of a holdover from the previous chapter, is that I still don't buy the chemistry between Madeline and Bond. I felt like the lines are there and that sort of thing, but it's still, I think it's the age difference, man. And I think it's even harder to deny the age difference now. Daniel's just kind of, getting a little up there, in years. And I mean, Léa Seydoux looked amazing in this movie. Like, holy cow. If anything, she looked younger.
Right?
Yeah. And so, yeah. I mean, there's some moments that she's just, goodness. But yeah, again, like, I bought that she was into him. I kind of didn't necessarily buy into him being into her, actually. Or maybe it was just that maybe Daniel Craig was trying to play it more like he was still guarded or something like that. And maybe that was why, like, I sort of felt the way I did about it. But regardless, I felt like that chemistry still wasn't really there. And I felt like that was going to be a pitfall of this movie no matter what anyway. And I was right about that. It was one of the few things I was right about in this movie, was that chemistry still wasn't there, at least for me. I don't know how you felt about it.
It worked for me just like it worked in Spectre.
That's true.
I mean, I agree. I think the age difference, and we talked about that. Mm-hmm. I felt like a more age appropriate person would have been a better choice for this role.
Right.
Initially in Spectre, and I still feel it now. But I think that chemistry between them was fine in both. I mean, when you look at what the characters' motivations are and everything like that, I think the proper amount of passion and restraint was shown by both actors. I just think it's hard to see Daniel Craig as he is with Léa Seydoux as she is, mm-hmm. because of the age difference.
Right.
You know who would have been significantly better would have been Haley Atwell. A little older, a little wiser. I think she could have pulled it off better.
I can't imagine why you're making this suggestion, Jason.
Well, you could have put Léa Seydoux in the Tom Cruise thing that's happening next year. And I'm just saying.
They killed her off in a previous mission, so you can't actually. So, because she was the villain in Ghost Protocol.
That's right. That's right. Well, her sister, twin sister, clone.
I did like, now I will say, as far as action sequences go, I really enjoyed the action sequences for the most part, but I felt like the action scenes in Cuba were a little tough to follow at times because you're seeing it from a lot of different camera angles, and suddenly you're like looking at it from a different point of view, and you're like, wait, where did everyone just, it took me a second to reorient myself to like, mm-hmm. to where the action was going on based on where they cut to.
Yeah, well, a lot of it had to do with the lighting. A lot of it had to do with the fact they had a lot of multiple points of view going on in that particular scene. Right. They basically had 3.5, but you had Bond had his own individual, and Ana de Armas's character had her own individual. Right. So, yeah, but I mean, yeah. I
will say the driving scenes were unbelievable and only sort of built on the trailers. But that does lead me to a point. That it was unfortunate that I felt like they showed a little too much in the trailers.
Yeah, but you were saying that when they showed the trailers.
Yeah, but I do feel like this movie is going to be better received by people who have seen less of it. That's just me.
I would agree.
That's just me. Because I felt like I kind of saw all the biggest explodey things prior to going in. And I kind of wish I hadn't.
Yeah, but there's still some good pieces in there that you don't even know are happening.
Yeah. We've got those great little one-liners too, and lots of little fun little moments. Also, too, I will say, I felt like this was kind of it was strangely enough, both simultaneously the silliest and the most serious Bond movie of the Daniel Craig series at the same time. They managed to combine the silly and the serious, and it worked somehow. At least for me, it worked.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it took all the things you like about James Bond movies and left all the things you don't, and you got a really good James Bond movie out of it.
Yeah.
One could even argue the age difference between the two of them is one of those James Bond things that they put in there.
Indeed. But I don't know do you have anything else that you wanted to?
No, I mean, it's so tough when you're coming off the movie and you've got a lot of things that you want to talk about, but you can't talk about because you got to let everybody else enjoy the movie before you can talk about them. So, other than, rehashing what we already said, I think we kind of have covered the fact that you should go see this movie because it's great and, go do it. Yeah. See it twice.
Exactly.
See it 3 times.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I definitely intend to go back and see it in the theaters again once I get back from my vacation. And also, I'm actually kind of glad I'm going on vacation now, because now being on vacation, I won't have that urge to try and talk to somebody about it who hasn't seen it, or, there will be no temptation for me to accidentally spoil it for somebody, because I'm going to be off in, a different undisclosed location.
Exactly.
And just, doing my thing there. So, but yeah, go see the movie. It's, at least for me, it's a perfect ending to Daniel Craig's tenure. And we are certainly going to be moving into uncharted territory after this. That is for sure. But I think that's about it. With that, I'm Ben.
And I'm Jason.
And the CIC will return with more missions, more martinis,
and more mayhem.